Another possibility is they were placed there with religious intent.
What's the symbology there?
Symbology? I'm sure the word you were looking for was symbolism. What is the symbolism there? Let me explain it to you.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to do a quick video about the symbolism or the symbology in the Tiger and the Buffalo ad for Meta. Now, there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of symbolism packed into this 1.5-minute video, but we're not going to get into all of it. Again, I just wanted to do a quick down and dirty one. Let's get to it. We got these 4 kids in an art museum, and the first thing that gets their attention is this painting of a tiger attacking an animal, right? We've learned later it's a buffalo. And the painter is Henry Rousseau. He painted it in 1908, and he painted it while imprisoned for fraud. And he painted it from his imagination. He never ventured outside France, but he read a bunch of travel books and talked to a bunch of people who traveled themselves. And so he used their stories and their descriptions to paint this picture. Now we're going to turn to Lady K. Flo, who talks about the symbolism and interpretive meaning of The Fight of the Tiger and the Buffalo by Rousseau. Let's scroll down here. They represent the nature of youth and physical beauty and the ties of innocence, okay? But I think the most important thing that we're going to take away from this is that it represents a transitory nature, the transition between two things. So let's jump back into this video. So they stare at the painting, and then the painting comes to life. But one thing that we probably missed, let's jump back to it, are these 3 paintings in the background. Now, we're all pretty familiar with this, like the pyramid and the sun, and it's representative of the all-seeing eye, or the eye of Providence and the eye of Horus. And then we get this black hole sun with the black ring around it, and the black hole sun is symbolic of Saturn, the first sun. And then we get this mirror of this painting over here, but it's inverted, right? It's got the sun on top, the pyramid is inverted, pointing down. And the occult, specifically like Hermeticism, Freemasonry, the Rosicrucians, they talk about the as above, so below, and that's what you get with this inverted triangle and this other one here, right? That as above, so below. But let's get back to the painting. So they stare at the painting, and then it opens up and comes to life, and the tiger sort of welcomes you into this new metaverse, the dimension of imagination. Now, if you're familiar with the biblical text at all, the creator keeps a very watchful eye on the imaginations of men. And so when we think about the Tower of Babel, it wasn't necessarily that they were building a very tall structure trying to get into heaven, but it's because that their imaginations were unrestrained. Nothing that they imagined would be withheld from them. And so we see that imagination is actually very powerful. And then here we get 4 toucans, right? 4 kids, 4 toucans. And the toucan in South American mythology and religion is seen as a messenger and a traveler between worlds, between the physical world and the spiritual world, really more specifically between our world and the world of the dead. And then after these toucans, we get flamingos, and we see this one here is twerking, but we get 7. There's 2 more that pop up here, and so we have 3 sets of 2s. We got 2, 2, the 2 here, and then we got the lone one in the back. And I'm not going to get into the numerology or the meaning of the 3 pairs, but flamingos represent like a community and open-mindedness, and of course sexuality. So think about, back in the day, people would put pink flamingos in their yard to, tell others that they were part of the community of swingers, that they were sexually open-minded and involved in that sort of lifestyle. So the pink flamingo definitely represents sexuality and community. And then you get these 2 pairs of lotus flowers, 3 red and 3 yellow. And the lotus flower is symbolic of fertility, transformation, enlightenment, and transcendence. And then the water is a common theme or a common reflective symbol for the human subconscious. So here we have the lotus flowers, the enlightenment and transcendence in the human subconscious, with a sexual community taking place in the human subconscious. And looking at the real world, right, the physical world right here, we know subliminal advertising uses, sexuality heavily, right? Sex is in every kind of advertisement, whether you want to admit it or not. So why would it be any different in the metaverse? Anyway, let's keep going. So the kids are kind of confused, and they kind of stay this way until like the very end of the video. And then we get these two creatures. I think the general consensus is that they are raccoons somehow in a jungle, but nonetheless, we get these two creatures, and it kind of seems like either one is male, one is female, or one is old and one is young. But either way, they just stare at you, and it's like a unsettling stare, and they just start dancing. And raccoons symbolize like mischief and trickery, but they also represent deception or disguise, that things are not necessarily what they seem at surface level. The kids start moving along with the rhythm, and then we get this owl here, right? And owls are kind of commonly interpreted with wisdom, like the Owl of Athena, but I think more importantly, more commonly, they are associated with death, darkness, and the underworld. In a lot of European religions and even Native American and South American religions, the owl is the guardian of the underworld or a consort to the god of death. Let's get back. So we see this owl, and then we get just a bunch of stuff thrown at us right here. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what this city is representative of. I think perhaps like a smart city or like a digital Babylon, perhaps. And then we get the setting sun, the moon, obviously a blatant Saturn symbol, and then another Saturn symbol. So here we have a hexagon. I don't know if it's supposed to be a gate or a portal, but you get a six-sided hexagon and a cube in the middle. And both of those, the hexagon and the cube, are symbols of Saturn. Go look up the eye of Saturn, right? And you see the hexagonal eye. And a hexagon is a cube, but like an unfolded cube. And so you get a lot of Saturn symbolism here. And obviously Saturn, or Kronos, is the god of time and the god of the underworld. And so the owl, again, kind of fits with that theme as well. And then you get three baboons. I don't know why only three, because there's 4 kids. You get 3 baboons and a snake over here. Now, the baboons were really used heavily in Egyptian mythology, and Thoth was the god of the moon. He was the god of wisdom and sort of like the metronon in Jewish Kabbalism. There was a god, Babi. He was the baboon god, and then over time he kind of got replaced by Thoth. But Babi was the god of virility, and of course, the god of the underworld, destruction, and was known for destroying human souls. And so the Egyptian Book of the Dead even talks about baboons, surprisingly. Kind of weird. I didn't honestly know or even imagine that would be in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but clearly we have a baboon reference there. So baboons represent the underworld, death, and destruction, and the destroying of souls, along with sexuality. So we have a snake here. We'll come back to that. So the 4 kids are kind of being brought into the painting or the metaverse at this point, and the tiger and the buffalo are dancing. Now, here we have 4 snakes and 4 kids, right? So a snake per kid. Now, a snake is really associated with like death and rebirth, or renewal, immortality, and fertility. Like the snake eating its tail, like the snake goes through cycles of death and rebirth. And it's kind of like a dualism, right? Snakes can be seen as good and bad throughout different religions and mythology. But they also represent a transcendence from a lower state to a higher state in occult. If you're familiar with the Bible, you get the opposite view of a snake or serpent. The snake, gave knowledge to Adam and Eve and caused their downfall, whereas the occult, like Freemasons and Hermeticism and even different religions, see that serpent as a Promethean figure who gave enlightenment through knowledge to humankind. Now, looking at these kids, her shirt is normal, right? That's how you would normally wear a shirt. But this guy's is pulled apart so you can see the t-shirt underneath. See how the flap is kind of folded over and this one's kind of brushed to the side intentionally. And then you get the cube and the black hole, right? The black hole sun again, and the cube referencing Saturn. So then they start dancing and everybody starts getting a little more crazy and into it. And again, you get that symbolism behind there. And I mean, look at their faces as they're dancing. They're kind of hesitant, reluctant, cautious even, but nonetheless, it's like they're being hypnotized and entranced by these dancing creatures, okay? This guy's not even paying attention with his eyes. And we'll jump back a little bit. So here, obviously, it's a reflection of, like paradise. You get the symbolic paradise, right? All the creatures, even the aggressive carnivores, are dancing in unity and having fun. And there's that twerking flamingo again. And so it's this unity between every creature, okay? And even if you don't want to partake in it, you sort of get entranced and lured into this metaverse. Now, I'm not quite sure about this, but the more I look at it, the more it kind of hits me over the head. The one-eye symbolism. Like if we go to the beginning of the painting, you only see the one eye, right? And the weird looking buffalo horn, but I've seen other pictures where the horns look like that. But it kind of reminds me of the sun disk and the horns in Egyptian mythology, right? With the bull. But you see the one eye there, and then you see it again, later on here. He doesn't have another eye. He really doesn't. He's got that one eye. And so that goes back to, the eye of Saturn and the eye of Providence, like in the beginning with the pyramid and the sun disk. And this is going to be fun. Now, I've heard a lot of different things about this meta symbol. I don't really know. I kind of go back and forth on it. As you watch it sort of be created, it's like a hollow circle that's warped and bent into an infinity symbol. So it could be either or. And again, the infinity symbol and the Ouroboros and the serpent eating its own tail, And then Meta. Now, if you remember when Meta first changed its name, or Facebook changed its name to Meta, it was a huge deal on the internet because Meta is the Hebrew word for death. Really, it's not. Meta sounds like the feminine word in Hebrew for death. So it's a little bit of a stretch there, but I mean, death does fit the theme. But I kind of agree with what Zuckerberg actually said about the meaning of meta, that it comes from the Greek word and it means like a transition or beyond kind of a thing, not necessarily the Hebrew word for death. I think that's a bit of a stretch. But think about like metaphysics, right? Like beyond physics, more than just physics. It's sort of like a transcending in a way. But yeah, so like I said, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of symbolism. We just cruised through that in what, I don't know, like 15 minutes. Do your own research, take a look at it yourself. Thanks for watching.